There was once a man named Jack who lived on the outskirts of the city. He lived alone, his life filled with predictability and boring routines. But Jack didn't mind his solitary lifestyle. On the contrary, he found the idea of not owing anyone anything quite peaceful. Every day, Jack would rise precisely at 6 a.m., get a cup of coffee from his kitchen, read the daily newspaper, and go on a quiet stroll in his neighborhood. It was during one such walk that fate intervened, forever shifting the course of Jack's life. As Jack paraded along his routine path, he heard a faint whimpering sound. He looked around in an attempt to figure out what on earth could be making that noise, but to no avail. Jack stopped and listened closer. The sound was coming from a nearby bush adjacent to one of the apartment buildings on his block. I wonder what could possibly be causing such a ruckus at this peaceful hour of the morning, Jack said to himself as he slowly approached the shrieking bush. Living on the outskirts of the city, Jack would rarely be disturbed by incessant sounds or anything occurring out of the ordinary. So whatever was hiding in the bush piqued his interest, and he felt obligated to investigate. As Jack approached the bush, he began to see the furry little creature more clearly. Could it be a fox? That would be dangerous. Or even worse, a baby fox. A mother is always near. Perhaps I should turn back before it's too late. Just as Jack was about to turn around, he heard a faint bark. A dog? Maybe it's a puppy. Jack promptly turned around, took a couple of steps towards the bush, and moved the twigs out of the way. The whimpering intensified. In front of Jack was a frail old dog. His eyes were big and sad. He was thin and frail, barely wagging his skinny tail. As Jack further inspected the situation, he failed to find a collar or any other sort of identification. The dog seemed to be abandoned and all alone. Jack took a step back, unsure of what to do next. Should I call animal control? Maybe they could take it to a shelter and find it a nice home. The dog continued looking at Jack with its pleading eyes. How could I? The only thing you ever hear about those shelters is how the animals suffer. I couldn't possibly do that. But if I don't, someone else might. Jack looked over at the frail old dog once more. Then, without a doubt in his mind, Jack approached the dog. "Hey, buddy, want a treat?" said Jack. The dog started wagging its tail at the word treat and began to approach Jack. Jack continued calling out the dog as he slowly walked in the direction of his home. He decided to keep it, at least for the time being. As Jack opened his door, the dog stopped dead in its tracks. "Come on in," said Jack, but the dog didn't move. Jack stood in the doorway, mildly confused. Then and there, I didn't know what to do. Maybe he was abused. Perhaps the dog ran away from his last owner. Poor fella. How should I get him inside? Jack stood there wondering for a moment. Suddenly, his face lit up with an idea, and he dashed inside, leaving the door to his home open. Moments later, he returned with a piece of turkey in his hand. This should be safe to eat, thought Jack to himself as he waved it in front of the dog. Hesitantly, the dog began to wag its tail again while slowly approaching Jack. He got down low and was almost face to face with his new companion. The dog sniffed the turkey and looked at Jack for a minute. The tension in that doorway could have been cut with a knife. Then, as if nothing ever posed a threat, the dog accepted Jack's treat and walked right into his hallway. Jack sat down beside it and said, "I promise that we will find whoever lost you. Your family must be worried sick. But for now, I'm going to call you Max." Max looked over at Jack and let out a bark of enthusiasm. "Now let's go and get you cleaned up," said Jack, motioning Max to follow him into the bathroom. Little did Jack know that the small stray dog he had rescued that fateful day would become an agent of change in his life. As Max entered Jack's life, his presence disrupted the once predictable routine. Jack wholeheartedly embraced this newfound responsibility, as he realized that caring for Max involved more than just providing him with food and water. Jax called the local veterinarian's office and secured an appointment in a week's time. But in the meantime, the duo embarked on a journey of companionship, growing closer and closer every minute. Together, they began to go on daily walks, exploring the neighborhood's hidden corners. Jack's backyard transformed into a playground filled with joy and playful barks. In the evenings, as their energy was spent, Jack and Max would snuggle up on the couch and watch TV. Suddenly, Jack's life had no more privacy, each moment being shared with his canine friend. He almost completely forgot what it was like to be alone. A week passed, and it was time to take Max to the vet to scan his chip and find his real owners. On their way there, Jack couldn't help but wish that miraculously Max would be unchipped, or that the chip would be broken and he would stay in his care by default. At this point, he would do anything to keep Max around. As they arrived at the vet, Jack grew very sad. He felt as though soon his companion would be taken from him again. Jack didn't want Max to go back to his old family. They've built a family of their own, and it would be unfair to abandon it now. "Hello, could I have your name, please?" said the receptionist. "Jack Warrington," said Jack. "Ah, perfect, you're on time. The doctor will be out in a second," said the receptionist, and picked up the phone at her desk. Jack and Max walked over to the waiting area and took a seat. Jack stared at the clock on the wall, patiently following the small arm, hoping that the clock would magically stop and the whole world in an instant freeze. Max patiently sat behind his newfound owner, trying to comfort him as best he could. It seemed as though both of them were dreading something. The doctor came out in a couple of minutes and called out Jack Warrington to come forward. Jack rose from his seat and began approaching the doctor. Max followed. "Hello, Mr. Warrington. It is a pleasure to meet you. I am Dr. Smith," said the vet. "Nice to meet you too, Doc," said Jack. "Why don't you follow me into the office, and we can get down to business," said Dr. Smith, and opened the door behind him. Jack and Max followed. "So, tell me, what brings you here today?" said the vet. "Well, you see, Dr. Smith, I found this fellow on the side of the road just a little over a week ago. Tried to nurture him back to strength. As you see, I didn't do too bad of a job," said Jack. "That's wonderful to hear. It looks like your friend here is very happy and healthy. So, how can I help?" said Dr. Smith. "Well, just standard routine. I thought I should take Max here for a health checkup to make sure everything is all right. And there's one more thing," said Jack. "What is it?" inquired the vet. Jack went quiet for a moment. "Max is a very friendly dog, a very trusting one too, and I read that it is a common behavior in dogs that were born as strays. I think he could be a runaway. So, we should probably check him for a chip and try to find his real owners," said Jack, sighing. "I understand how hard it must be for you, Jack. Even a short while is enough to bond with a dog like Max forever," expressed the vet. Jack was quiet. He looked at Max, then at the doctor, then back at Max. "Why don't I take him into the examination suite? We'll do the check and look for a chip and reconvene here in about an hour," said Dr. Smith. Jack nodded, then kneeled down to Max and gave him a pat. "You be good in there, okay? I'll see you soon," said Jack, exiting the office. Jack returned to the waiting room and sat there in silence. He didn't want to leave, and desperately waited for the hour to pass so that he could be reunited with his best friend once again. Dead focused on the clock, Jack would periodically nod off to sleep, but every time he thought of Max getting taken away, he jolted right back up. Soon after, the receptionist called for Jack once more. At the speed of light, Jack jolted from his chair to Dr. Smith's office. "What is it, doctor? Is everything all right?" said Jack. "I have some news," uttered Dr. Smith. Jack patiently waited for Dr. Smith to speak. "Your friend Max here is actually a service dog who belongs to a war veteran suffering with severe PTSD," said Dr. Smith. Jack's face turned blank. Max had an owner, and there was nothing he could do. He should return Max to where he belongs, to where he is needed most. "Mr. Warrington, what's got you down?" said the vet. "I have to give Max away, don't I?" asked Jack. "What made you think that?" asked the vet. "Doc, you said he belongs to a war vet. He must be returned," expressed Jack. "Belongs? Oh, I beg your pardon. I meant to say belonged. His owner has been deceased as of 2 weeks now. No relatives to claim him either. That man was all alone," said the doctor. A surge of relief charged through Jack. Although it may not have been appropriate to celebrate such a fact, Jack was simply overjoyed. Dr. Smith also explained that the results of the tests he ran should come in closer to the evening, and for now, Jack and Max were free to go. Excitedly, Jack and his companion left the office and went on their jolly way home. I never knew the world could be so bright. The second my fear of losing Max alleviated, I felt alive in a way I've never really felt before. It was freeing to know that we were going to be together for a long time, and nothing would take him from me anytime soon. Upon returning home, Jack and Max went along with their daily routine, happy to spend every moment together. As the evening settled in, so did they. While the TV displayed a silly cartoon, Max and Jack sat snuggled up on the couch. Then, all of a sudden, the phone rang. It must be the doctor, thought Jack to himself as he lazily got off the couch and approached his home phone in the kitchen. "Hello," said Jack. "Hello, am I speaking to Mr. Warrington?" asked a voice on the other side of the line. "This is he. Who is asking?" replied Jack. "Hi, Jack, it's me, Dr. Smith. I have the result from earlier today," said the doctor. "It's pretty late. I'm surprised the clinic works at this time of night," said Jack. "Well, it doesn't, but this seemed like a pressing matter, so I thought you should know as soon as possible," said the doctor. Anxiety jolted through Jack's body. "Oh no, is something wrong with Max?" asked Jack worryingly while looking at happy Max sitting on the couch. "I'm afraid so. Max has a tumor in his jaw. Seemingly, he has had it for a while. We can see that it's spread down to the throat as well. It shouldn't be too long before it reaches the brain," said the doctor. A loud crash followed. Jack dropped the phone and stood there in shock. Faint hellos were coming out from Jack's phone as the doctor tried to get a hold of him again. Jack knelt down and picked up the phone once more. "Sorry. Yes, I'm here," said Jack. "Wonderful," said Dr. Smith. "Is there anything we can do? Surgery? Chemo? Do they even have chemo for dogs?" Jack bombarded Dr. Smith with questions. "Mr. Warrington, let's take a moment to regain composure. Unfortunately, Max's illness is terminal, and any attempt of surgery would be completely in vain," uttered the doctor. "So this is it?" asked Jack quietly, barely holding back the tears. "I would give Max another 2 weeks before putting him down. Holding out any longer might cause your friend immeasurable pain. That's all the news I have for now. Let's reconvene tomorrow and decide on how to move forward. I reckon there would be no point in changing Max's chip information now since it's only 2 weeks to go," expressed Dr. Smith. "I understand. Thank you for the call, doctor. We will talk soon," said Jack, and promptly hung up the phone. Over the next couple of days, Jack was more attentive to Max than ever before. Now that their days were numbered, all the time spent together was ever more precious. It was true and genuine love, and when the time came for them to say their goodbyes, although shadowed with sadness, Jack couldn't help but think of how grateful he was for Max appearing in his life. Before my dog, I knew nothing of living in close proximity to anyone else. I didn't know how to depend on others and care for them. Max showed me that nothing could be valued more than great and honest companionship, and taught me that it's okay to be vulnerable to the world. If it weren't for him, I might have spent my whole life living in the dark without ever realizing it.